Hey everybody, I'm Mark Bouchard with Police Mentors. Today we're going to be talking about On Killing, the psychological cost of learning to kill in war and society by Lieutenant Colonel Dave Grossman. It's such an important book. I came across this book because I was trying to heal myself. I was working as a police officer and I ran into some situations where people put me into lethal force type situations. And the first one, I was at my first couple years into the job and someone pointed what turned out to be an imitation firearm at me, and my brain screamed shoot, and my brain screamed move in the same instant, and I moved. And then ultimately, there's a lot to that story. It was a suicide by cop attempt. The person dropped the gun. I came back up with my firearm, believing I was going to have to shoot this person to keep everyone safe, and that rocked me with a lot of nightmares and basically PTSD because of how badly I didn't want to shoot someone. I didn't understand it. And after many years of suffering, I found this book On Killing, and it really helped me. So I'm going to go through some key lessons that I learned from On Killing, and my hope is that they might help you as well. So one of the things Lieutenant Colonel Grossman talks about is posture, submit, fight, and flight. And it's basically what intra-species conflict can look like. So that often we have a resistance to killing our own species. And he talks about how with humans, it shows up in things like war, that many people either don't shoot or they shoot aiming to miss. They don't actually shoot at a person. And it's only a small percentage of soldiers in war prior to, like, say, Vietnam, who would actually shoot the enemy. And also that's what we see in law enforcement, is that it's actually what we expect a lethal force situation to be, and the reality of how hard it is emotionally and how powerful that resistance is a much more than we expect. So often what we're doing is we're posturing. We go to the high risk thing, we have our gun out and we scream, police drop the gun. And then if they don't, we just scream louder and louder and louder, and trying to posture harder, hoping that that will get them to submit. We just need to understand these concepts so they can help us. So another thing that he talks about is how many won't shoot, even when you're legally, morally, ethically justified and forced to. And like me, when the gun's pointed at you, and at the end of the day, that call that I'm talking about, that was someone's suicide attempt. They were trying to die, force their own death, and they were trying to use me to do that. And it didn't work for them that day. They didn't die. I didn't shoot them. But that, when you look at, there's all kinds of videos here on YouTube that you can look through, and you will see this often over and over again, is that officers are placed into really dangerous situations, and they will place themselves into more danger, trying so hard not to shoot. There's a great book called Shots Fired by Chuck Ryland, and in that he follows different officers in regards to their shootings. And one of them is Chad Robichaux, and he basically describes that if you'd asked me that morning, I would have said blast him, thinking that shooting would have been easy. And in that moment, he can't, and he actually runs up, gets in a hand-to-hand fight, and eventually is forced to shoot someone. But that's when someone's pointing a gun at him with the finger on the trigger. So we really need to understand what's happening so that we can keep ourselves safe and other people safe. Another important concept in this book is operant conditioning. And basically what he says is you won't rise to the occasion, you'll fall to the level of your training. And that what you've trained and rehearsed, that's what will come out the other end, operationally. Again, very true. So I like to think of it as conditioned cops. What we want to do is train for the realities of the situation. I think at times our training isn't always, close enough to the realities that we're going to face. And that's why we mix in different things like being at a range, scenario-based training, because you need to combine different aspects to bring your training as close to reality as possible. He also talks about the proximity, that as you get closer to a lethal force decision, in closeness, I mean to that person that you are being forced to shoot, if shooting is what the incident is, it gets harder and harder. So the difference is, say you're shooting artillery or you're doing something that is very distant, you don't see the impacts immediately, versus something like a hand-to-hand fight or a knife, or, as you get very close. And a lot of police shootings are extremely close range. So the fact that they are at a very close proximity in physical distance to the person that's often trying to kill you can also make it that much more impactful. And just Yeah, one of my key takeaways from this book is how badly, specific to the law enforcement profession, but how badly cops don't want to shoot people, how badly they don't want to kill people. And I can say that's been my experience, not that I've shot anyone, but obviously I've been very close on multiple occasions. And some of those really impacted me. And I suffered from a lot of nightmares for a lot of years. And then reading books like this and Lieutenant Colonel Grossman's other book on combat and shots fired that I just mentioned, those really helped me to heal. And that's the last thing I want to leave off with is that you can heal. If you are suffering, if you have like nightmares and rage and alcoholism and all those kind of things that can come after we go through very traumatic, critical incidents, there are programs like reintegration, which can help police officers after they experience traumatic incidents, including police shootings. And sometimes officers who don't shoot actually suffer a lot of psychological pain, emotional pain, things like shame and guilt. Um, we feel like a failure for our inability to protect ourselves, protect others. And that I know that really impacted me, and it can really impact other people. So let me know down in the comments if you read this book, which of these concepts are the most impactful for you. Thank you.